A tropical cyclone heading for Western Australia, severe heat building across the southeast, heavy rainfall for far North Queensland, multiple weather systems across the continent. That is what we are looking at for the next week. Right now, conditions across Australia are about as varied as you will see. Up in the Kimberley, preparations are underway for what is shaping up to be a Category 2 cyclone. Meanwhile, southeast Queensland been copping the heat. 38 degrees yesterday, humid and sticky. Innisfail had a couple of days of perfect weather, but that changes this weekend with heavy rain on the way. Down south in Ipswich, the heat air's been next level. Further south still, conditions are calmer, but that 1T last. The pressure map tells the story. Low pressure dominates right across northern Australia. Not one, not two, but three tropical low pressure systems are active. That peak wet season for you. A weak ridge of high pressure is trying to build across the eastern coast, bringing some temporary relief to New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania. But it's not strong enough to hold off what's coming. Let's start with the most immediate concern. Tropical low 16U currently offshore from Western Australia. This system been organising itself throughout the night and it's tracking directly towards the Kimberley coastline. The Bureau of Meteorology has issued a cyclone warning for the Dampier Peninsula through to Derby, with a cyclone watch extending from the Mitchell Plateau down to Broome and south to Bidyadanga. Here is what the data shows. The system got a well-defined low-level centre. It sitting in very favourable conditions for intensification. Sea surface temperatures are warm, wind shear is low, and it's got another 24 hours over open water before it starts interacting with the coastline. The current forecast track has it making landfall around the Dampier Peninsula and Cape Levesque area late Saturday night, then moving towards Derby early Sunday morning. Now, the official forecast is calling for a Category 2 landfall. Winds around 150 to 170 kilometres per hour. That is a significant system, but not catastrophic. However, and this is important, the current conditions support the possibility of further intensification. If this system continues to organise the way it has been, Category 3 isn't out of the question. The forecast models haven't picked up on this yet, but I'm watching it closely. For those in Broome and Derby, you will want to start making preparations now if you haven't already, and fair enough if you got a head start earlier in the week. That is smart planning. This is going to be a quick, sharp impact. You don't need a week's worth of supplies. What you do need is to be ready for power and water outages from Saturday night through Sunday. Restoration is likely by Monday morning. Secure loose items around your property. Stock up on essentials. Make sure you've got batteries, torches and a battery-powered radio. If you're in a caravan or temporary structure, relocate to solid shelter. The Kimberley built for these systems. Buildings meet cyclone codes, but that doesn't mean you take it lightly. The worst case scenario, and I reckon this is unlikely, would be a Category 3 or even Category 4 system hitting the Cape Levesque area. Even if that happens, the impact would be very much isolated to the northern parts of the Dampier Peninsula. Derby and Broome being the main population centres, and I am using that term loosely considering they both fairly small, would see more moderate impacts. After landfall, the system weakens rapidly as it moves inland. It'll dump a fair bit of rain across the interior Kimberley, which they can use, then dissipate. But the remnants of this system play a role in what happens next across southern Australia. We'll come back to that. Moving across to Queensland. Tropical low 18U is currently positioned north of the Cape York Peninsula. This system forecast to track down into the southeastern Gulf of Carpentaria over the next couple of days. It is not expected to intensify into a cyclone. What it will do is bring widespread heavy rainfall to far north Queensland. The setup here is a slow-moving system with limited steering flow. That means it's going to stall and sit over the same areas for an extended period. When you get a system like this during the wet season, you stack up the rainfall totals quickly. Far north Queensland from Lockhart River down to about Cooktown, you're looking at widespread falls between 150 to 300 millimetres over the next week. Isolated areas could see 400 to 500 millimetres. The heaviest rain falls over the next couple of days, particularly along the east coast of Cape York Peninsula. By early to mid next week, that rain extends south to around the Townsville area, though Townsville itself stays on the edge of the heaviest falls. Cairns, the Cassowary Coast, the Daintree Rainforest, you're going to see moderate to locally heavy rain on and off throughout the week. You'll want to pack the umbrella every day. Roads may become cut in some areas. Creek crossings could be flooded. If it's flooded, forget it. Never drive through floodwater. The good news is that significant flooding isn't expected. These areas have been a bit drier over the last couple of weeks, so the ground can absorb a fair amount of this rain. 500 millimetres sounds like a lot, and it is, but in the context of the wet season in far North Queensland, it's manageable. Still, keep an eye on the Bureau S flood warnings and local council updates. Tropical low 17U, the third system, is becoming monsoonal and losing definition. It S being absorbed into the broader monsoon trough. That trough is building across northern Australia, and it'll drive shower and thunderstorm activity across northern Queensland, parts of the Northern Territory, and eventually feed moisture down into central Australia. Now, let's talk about thunderstorms for southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales. I've seen the forecast models. I know what they're re-showing. High instability, warm temperatures, moisture. On paper, it looks like a setup for severe thunderstorms, particularly for Monday the 26th, Australia Day. Here's the reality. Thunderstorms need more than just instability to get going. You need a trigger, you need moisture, and critically you need wind shear. The shear forecast for Monday across southeast Queensland is poor, 10 to 15 knots. That is not enough. Without adequate shear, thunderstorms struggle to organise and sustain themselves. There is another problem. The forecast storm motion is from the southeast towards the northwest. That's the opposite of what you want across southeast Queensland. Storms moving from the coast inland are moving from a moist environment into a dry environment. They tend to underperform. The favourable tracks are either southwest to northeast or parallel to the coast. This setup doesn't give us that. Friday and Saturday, you will see isolated thunderstorms across central and western Queensland. Non-severe pulse storms, very hit and miss. If you cop a storm, consider yourself lucky or unlucky depending on your perspective. They're not going to be strong. Sunday, there's a bit more activity. Scattered thunderstorms across northeastern New South Wales, possibly severe with damaging wind gusts, locally heavy rainfall and some hail. A few storms near the Capricornia coast and through the Burnett district. Again, these are pulse thunderstorms, short-lived, isolated. Monday, despite what the numbers suggest, I'm not expecting anything significant. The ingredients are there, but the execution is going to be lacking. You might see a few thunderstorms develop along the coast, but they'll struggle as they move inland. Tuesday and beyond, calmer conditions. As we head towards the end of January, thunderstorm activity drops off significantly. The Australia Day long weekend won't feature the dramatic weather some might be hoping for. What it will feature is heat. Significant persistent heat across southeastern Australia. The setup for this heat wave begins Sunday and ramps up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. A low pressure system develops over southwestern Queensland. Northerly winds funnel down through South Australia, Victoria and inland New South Wales. Those northerlies are going to be strong, bringing hot air down from central Australia. In South Australia, you are looking at daytime maximums between 46 and 48 degrees Celsius in some spots. That is a scorcher by anyone's standards. But here's what makes this a heatwave concern. It's not the daytime temperatures. You can find shade, get into the air conditioning. It's the overnight minimum temperatures. Because of those persistent northerlies, temperatures aren't dropping at night. At 6 a.m., typically the coolest part of the day, you are still sitting at 35 degrees in parts of inland South Australia. The coast gets a weak sea breeze that provides a bit of relief for places like Ceduna and Streaky Bay, but not much. Overnight minimums in the mid-30s. That is brutal. When you can cool down at night, that S, when heat becomes dangerous, your body needs that overnight recovery period. Without it, heat stress builds. The elderly are particularly vulnerable. If you've got mates or family in these areas, check on them. Make sure they're recoping. Same story for Western New South Wales and Victoria. The heat builds Sunday, peaks Monday through Wednesday, then eases slightly. But some forecast models are showing this pattern continuing into Thursday and beyond. 4 or 5 days of 45 plus degree temperatures. I reckon that is a bit of a stretch, but it gives you an idea that next week is going to be extremely hot. Fire danger is going to be a major concern. Extreme to catastrophic fire danger ratings are likely across Victoria, South Australia and parts of New South Wales. Total fire bans will be in place. If you're in a bushfire-prone area, have your plan ready. Know your trigger to leave. Leaving early is always the safest option. Do not wait and see. For those with livestock, make sure they've got access to shade and water. Check on them regularly. Heat stress in animals builds quickly. This heat is being amplified by the remnants of that tropical cyclone that hits Western Australia. After the system crosses the Kimberley coast and weakens, its remnants get caught up in the steering flow and help drive those northerly winds across the south. It's an interesting connection between the tropical weather up north and the heat down south. The ridge of high pressure that's currently providing some relief to the eastern states is weak. It is not going to hold. As the low pressure system develops over southwestern Queensland, that ridge gets pushed out. By Monday, the northerlies dominate. Let me talk about the longer term pattern. We re-in peak wet season across northern Australia. That means this kind of active tropical weather is normal. Multiple low pressure systems, heavy rainfall, cyclones. It's what this time of year brings. The difference with this particular pattern is how it's interacting with southern Australia. Typically, you do see the heat build over inland areas, but coastal regions stay more moderate. This setup is bringing prolonged heat to coastal South Australia and Victoria as well. That's less common and it's worth paying attention to. The overnight temperatures are the key concern. In Australia, we define heat waves based on overnight minimums, not daytime maximums. It is a different approach to some other countries, but it makes sense. Your body's resilience to heat depends on recovery time. If you're in the affected areas, here is what you need to do. Stay hydrated, drink water, even if you don't feel thirsty. Avoid outdoor strenuous activity during the hottest parts of the day. If you have to be outside, take regular breaks in the shade, wear light-coloured, loose-fitting clothing, use sunscreen, check your air conditioning is working now before the heat hits. If you don't have air conditioning, identify cool places you can go. Shopping centres, libraries, community centres, many councils open cooling centres during extreme heat events. Look after your pets. Make sure they've got shade and fresh water. Don't leave them in cars, not even for a minute. If you start feeling dizzy, nauseous, or develop a headache, get into a cool environment immediately. Those are early signs of heat stress. Don't push through it. The Bureau of Meteorology will issue heatwave warnings. Pay attention to them. They'll give you specific guidance for your area. Looking at the broader picture, January living up to its reputation as Australia's hottest month. We're re-seeing the full range of summer weather. Tropical systems up north, extreme heat across the south, thunderstorms through the interior. It's a busy pattern and it's going to stay busy for at least another week. For those asking about the Gold Coast storm season, it's winding down. We repass the peak. You'll still see the odd storm through February and into March, but the big severe weather events are less likely now. The focus shifts more to tropical systems and heavy rainfall events rather than severe thunderstorms. One thing I want to emphasise, the media loves to sensationalise weather events. You'll see headlines about killer heat waves and monster cyclones. Take that with a grain of salt. These are significant weather events that deserve your attention and preparation. They not the end of the world. You've seen worse. Many of you remember Black Saturday in 2009. That was an extreme event. This heat is serious, but it's not at those levels. And the cyclone heading for Western Australia is a Category 2, possibly Category 3. It's a significant system. But the KIMBERLEY dealt with these before. Cyclone Larry in 2006 was Category 5. Cyclone Yasi in 2011, same deal. This system is smaller and less intense than those. What matters is preparation, being ready, having a plan, not panicking but not being complacent either. The rainfall for far North Queensland is substantial, but it's wet season rain in an area built to handle it. The 2011 Queensland floods were a different beast entirely. Brisbane and Toowoomba saw catastrophic flooding. This isn't that kind of event. Keep it in perspective. Be prepared, but don't panic. For the weekend, if you are in southeast Queensland or northern New South Wales, expect warm conditions building into the heat on Monday. Isolated thunderstorms are possible Sunday, but widespread severe weather isn't likely. The Australia Day long weekend will be hot and mostly dry across the southeast. Western Australia, the Kimberley region, you refacing cyclone conditions late Saturday into Sunday. Follow the Bureau's warnings. Listen to emergency services. Make your preparations now. Far North Queensland, consistent rainfall over the next week. Roads may be cut. Creeks may flood. Plan accordingly. South Australia, Victoria, Western New South Wales. Brace for extreme heat from Sunday onwards. Multiple days of very high temperatures with minimal overnight relief. Fire danger will be extreme to catastrophic in places. Follow total fire bans. Have your bushfire plan ready. Tasmania and coastal New South Wales will see more moderate conditions initially, but the heat will reach you by midweek. The models are in reasonable agreement on the broad pattern. There is still some uncertainty on the exact intensity of the Western Australian cyclone and the precise timing of the heat peak across the southeast. But the overall picture is clear. As we head into the last week of January and early February, expect this pattern to gradually break down. The heat will ease, the tropical activity will shift, but for now we're in the thick of it. Keep an eye on the Bureau of Meteorology for updates. They your authoritative source for warnings and detailed forecasts. Follow your local emergency services on social media. They'll provide region-specific guidance. If you're retravelling over the long weekend, check conditions before you leave. Roads may be closed due to flooding in the north or fire danger in the south. Have a backup plan. For those in fire-prone areas, now the time to clear gutters. Move flammable material away from buildings and ensure your property is as defendable as possible. If the fire danger rating hits catastrophic, do not stay and defend. Leave early. I'll be updating throughout the weekend as these systems develop. The cyclone situation in particular could change quickly. If it intensifies more than expected, the warnings will be upgraded. Stay tuned for those updates. The heat forecast is solid. That S locked in. Multiple days of extreme temperatures across the southeast. It is going to be tough. Look after yourself and look after your mates. Australia is a big country with diverse weather patterns. What affects one region barely touches another, but when you in the affected zone, it matters. Take it seriously. Prepare appropriately. And remember, UV dealt with Australian summers before. This is what they bring. That's the detailed picture for the next week. Multiple significant weather events across different parts of the country. Stay informed, stay prepared.